Mark passed away in August of 2018. For those left behind, there's always the, well, how do you make it all make sense? And what do you do to continue the memory of that person? And it came to me very quickly that Mark had been focused on this, was very engaged with working with graduate students. I remember hearing him telling me stories about working with grad students. And even in his hospital room in the last few weeks, he was on his computer working with students because he didn't want to leave them in the lurch if anything were to happen to him. And so to me, it just seemed like the obvious thing to do, which was to create a scholarship that would continue that work. I think the research that it has sponsored, if you look at it, I mean, there's, I think, 6 recipients up to now. The breadth and the difference in the areas of research. Some of it is very data-driven. Others has been a little bit more qualitatively driven, but all at trying to find better solutions to help serving military members, veterans, or laterally their families.
I went to Afghanistan in 2006. My kind of trajectory with kind of that post-traumatic stress was relatively flat compared to a lot of my other colleagues, but I've seen the impact on some of the people that I've worked with over the years, and the challenges that they've experienced. But more specifically, the challenges that they have in establishing a relationship and kind of an understanding of what a clinical psychologist does, and their role in attempting to help the veteran kind of move, past and through those post-traumatic kind of reactions.
Those who have been in the military do experience elevated rates of trauma exposure. And so I think it's really important to better understand the impacts of trauma in these groups, which kind of opened the door to me getting involved in a number of different research studies, looking at Canadian Armed Forces active members and veterans, one of which is the study funded by this scholarship. So we did an initial study which found that there was a notable proportion of Canadian Armed Forces active members and veterans who do report experiencing military sexual trauma. And what we know from other research is that experiencing military sexual trauma is associated with adverse mental health outcomes, like having more common mental disorders. And so for this study in particular, I was interested in seeing if we could identify any possible factors that could help protect survivors of military sexual trauma from having mental health conditions.
Mark Zamorski's research and then his death predated my time in the academy, so I never got to work with him specifically. But then going back through his research history, it became apparent that he had invested a significant amount of time in becoming an expert in trying to assist Canadian Forces members and veterans through similar challenges that I'm attempting to assist them through. So I was lucky enough to be able to receive the award in Ottawa last year. So that's kind of the stage that I'm at right now, is attempting to acquire enough data of individual veterans to get kind of a better impression of what their daily lived experiences are, how they experience post-traumatic stress symptoms, which can be different for everyone. Attempt to see how those post-traumatic stress symptoms interact with one another across time. And then my main goal for the future is to continue working as a clinician with veterans and other people who have had traumatic events and kind of the challenges that arise from that.
No, I'm really grateful for the support and for the opportunity to be involved in multiple research studies now. Like, I think these types of scholarships really do make such a difference for trainees, really in terms of opening the doors to such significant research opportunities, being able to be involved as a trainee in kind of all of the stages of a research project, right from the beginning of developing the idea, being able to have more autonomy throughout like the research process.
I'm very proud of being able to support this. It's the research that's been important and the advances that are looking to be made in the areas. And I think one of the things that really still touches me is I continue to work for national defense as a civilian, and I have for the last coming on 18, 19 years now. is that I still see people who are benefiting from this work that's being done. And so to me, that's the motivation to continue with it. And I think it's really fascinating that we see students from across the country engaged in this kind of research. And some of them are driven from personal experience, personal reasons, and some of them are driven by pure love of science. And I think both of those are equally noble motivations, and happy to support both of those.